Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Professional Times. And we are very thrilled to talk about our very special guest, Mr. Chris Evans, who is the Managing Director of Oxford Limited. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we are very thrilled to have on our show.
Well, I'm very pleased to
Yeah.
be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, you would like to know about your professional journey and what makes you landed in Oxford.
Okay. Well, my journey started as a quite junior marketing communications executive in a large telecoms company in the UK back in the very early 1990s, before the invention of mobile phones.
Okay.
In fact, my very first job was selling pages over the telephone, telesales. Quickly discovered I wasn't much of a salesman and moved to transfer into marketing department. And from there was privileged to be able to build a career in marketing communications, specifically live events, conference, exhibition, brand experience, as well as brand management, so the more technical identity management and design elements of a brand. From there, of course, companies grow and then subside again through waves of redundancy. I managed to land on my feet and go and work for a motor insurance and breakdown company in the UK called RAC, the Royal Automobile Club, and was able to further my career. Doing broadly similar things, but at that point was asked to take on and manage the brand licensing program for RAC. And this was the principle of, in effect, lending your brand to third-party manufacturers and distributors to make RAC branded motoring-related products such as atlases, driving gloves, battery chargers, and allow them to be sold in general retail, sharing the revenues, taking a royalty from that sale. And this was my first introduction to brand licensing, and stood me in good stead because having gone through another phase of redundancies at RAC, with new owners taking a different strategic direction, I took a job working for central government. I have been a bureaucrat in my life.
Oh.
I was working for the Department of Health at Whitehall in the UK government, again in communications role, but was quite relieved when I received a call from a headhunter saying that they'd found my CV and they were very interested in talking to me about coming along to run this company for the University of Oxford, which happened in 2007. So with my brand experience, my brand licensing experience that I had built while I was at RAC, and I think with my general experience of organisation and management, I was in a position to be able to add a lot of value, and that they were very generous to offer me the job, which I took and have not looked back.
Excellent, excellent. So, when you have connected with Oxford and now, how is your journey with Oxford as compared to your previous experience versus the current role you're associated with Oxford, Oxford Limited specifically, which is a kind of subsidiary that also we would like to understand how it is. Because in India, when people say Oxford, is mostly like education comes first in the mind.
Yes,
so how
as it should, absolutely.
So how it is different, the Oxford, University of Oxford and Oxford Limited, and what kind of activities that is doing? And
so I think the University of Oxford has existed for nearly 9 centuries. It has made its reputation through the incredible accomplishments and the way that it goes about things in England, in Oxford, England. Since the war, really, since mid-20th century, the work of Oxford University Press has really what has projected the name and reputation of the university around the world. So when you pick up an Oxford English dictionary, when you go to school and you learn Oxford English as an English language course, this is the work of OUP, and that is a department of the university. About 20, 30 years ago, the university recognized that actually they had not taken good enough care of their trademark in terms of consumer product. And especially in Oxford itself, a number of retail companies had started selling Oxford University branded merchandise with no rights or permission to do so, but equally no reason to not do so because the university had not taken any steps.
Mm-hmm.
So the university took those steps by creating a subsidiary company, Oxford Limited, which is wholly owned by the university, and we have undertaken to donate all of our profits back to the university as a charitable donation each year.
Mm-hmm.
The university is actually a charity.
Yep.
And we are therefore operating on behalf of the university, but in a private company capacity.
Mm-hmm. When we are saying the name Oxford, what signifies you in the first instance?
Well, we have spent a lot of time thinking about that question. And of course, as we go around the world seeking to create Oxford University branded product, we have to understand what it is that Oxford means to consumers. The values that we've decided are central to the brand of the university are threefold.
Mm-hmm.
Quality, aspiration, and excellence. So that a consumer who sees an Oxford University branded product will expect it to be of extremely good quality.
Yeah.
Will somehow stand out in terms of its operation or its functionality or the design in it that makes it an excellent product, not just an average one.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we seek to inspire this admiration, this aspiration to be associated more closely with the university. The university itself is a global leader in higher education, but it is in a competition with all of the other major universities of the world.
Right.
Competition for certainly students, postgraduates, but also academics. We seek the best and the brightest in all fields, and without a continual attractiveness of the university around the world, it's obviously not going to be possible to maintain the position. So we do a very small part by seeking to project a modern contemporary view of the university through product. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying, of course, that we are instrumental,
right,
but we do our bit.
Although you're saying that it's a small part you're doing, but it's a very significant and very impactful kind of revenue stream, which is right now, and in future also it could be a large stream. So how are you planning to make your global reach to your various products and merchandise, all those products?
Well, I think this is where the power of licensing comes to play. If I were a traditional operator, I would be seeking to source product, sell it to retailers, and then have them sell it on to consumers. And of course, that is an incredibly resource-intensive process. I need a lot of capital in order to be able to source the product, to store it, to distribute it. I need a lot of resource in terms of the people and presence around the world to be able to do that. And that obviously is not tenable as an institution of higher education for Oxford to contemplate. But if we find partners who have all of that capability already, who are great manufacturers, who understand the skills required to serve the retail industry, but who do not perhaps have a powerful consumer brand presence, and therefore by coming together we both bring mutual benefit to the partnership. That is the perfect licensing arrangement. Perfect. And that's how we project the brand.
Are there any specific geography which you're targeting, or you have a global strategy? How do you want to take it to the market?
Well, there is obviously got to be certain conditions in place. In order to be able to run a licensing program, there has to be strong trademark protection in the territories or countries where we're operating. We can't offer our brand exclusively to a partner in that territory, only for us to not be able to control who else is using it. So we need to be able to rely on the judicial system to protect our rights, to protect our name and trademark. We also, of course, need a willing and reasonably affluent consumer base, and therefore there are parts of the world where that is not yet possible. But having travelled around the world, I can tell you that wherever I've gone, where those conditions are met, Oxford is flourishing as a consumer brand, obviously.
Could you tell us your key transition point for your organization and for your business globally, and how do you see the competitive world?
So the world is changing incredibly fast. Globalization, consumers having more information at their fingertips, having more choice at their fingertips through the invention of these incredibly powerful computers called smartphones. And we have to react to that. We have to adapt and change to that. We have to realize that in order to reach the next generation of consumers, we can't simply rely on placing our product in shop windows.
Because social media is playing a huge role nowadays,
Entirely.
And mobile penetration is very high. So
social media is a really interesting phenomenon. However, it is not as straightforward as considering it another form of advertising, because if you simply place an advertisement in front of a social media user in the middle of their social media session, they're simply going to flick past it. They're not interested in engaging with brands in that way. What they're interested in is how brands relate to them, their worldview, their outlook, their own preferences.
True.
So it's much more about putting yourself in front of consumers as a proposition, an idea that they will then come back to in different ways in the future. Of course, the other fantastic change that has really overtaken retail industry in the last 10 to 15 years is e-commerce, led by the likes of Amazon, here in India, Flipkart, Myntra. They have transformed
yes, of course,
retail, and in many ways to the detriment of the old school. Many traditional retailers in the UK, in America, around the world are struggling now to adapt to the modern world. They just have not got the mechanisms to be able to change as quickly as is required. So I think this too has affected us. When I took over Oxford Limited, we were pursuing a very traditional model of targeting licensed product at bricks and mortar retailers. Fair enough, because there wasn't such a thing as e-commerce at that stage. But even in my career at Oxford, which is now I'm in my 12th year at the helm of Oxford Limited, we have seen such dramatic change that those are really important areas that we need to address to stay relevant.
And how do you go about learning as an individual, your rich experience you have? How do you see that it's going to be helpful for the organization, and how do you take it to the market?
Well, by using exactly the same methods as my consumers do. I inform myself of what is happening in the world, the trends, the initiatives, the new projects. I take time to ensure that I network with my fellow licensing colleagues, and there are some major exhibitions and conferences, one of which has just been taking place here in Mumbai, which is why I'm with you today. And through informing myself, through sharing experience, through making sure I'm kept in touch with business development and initiative, I think it's possible to build a picture. All the jigsaw pieces might not be in front of you, but you see enough of the picture to be able to set your strategy and direction.
Sure. So taking the global strategy, global footprint, are there any mid-term and long-term plans?
Well, this is a very important phase for the regrowth of the Oxford licensing business. we are looking to re-navigate the waters of retail, and that means coming up with a viable e-commerce strategy. As well as running licensing, Oxford Limited also runs its own retail. We have a shop in the Oxford city centre, and we have our own e-retail site that serves customers around the world. So we need to think both in terms of our own presence in the market, but also how we serve and work with other retail channels around the world. And it is a continual process of evolution, of adapting to new realities, of discovering that previously successful strategies no longer work and coming up with new and interesting ones. That's part of the challenge of being at the helm of a company like this.
Yeah, great. So very interesting question I have now.
Okay.
Amazon, when we say Amazon, when they started, they
Yes.
started with from the bookshelves.
Yes.
And today, if we see the global footprint, the world they're driving in one specific industry. So, how do you see Amazon and Oxford? Do you want to take up their footprint and then excel into that direction?
Well, I think Amazon is only one player. And if you ask them what they are not a retailer. They are a technology company, and they want to be into driverless cars, and they want to be into drone delivery of packages, and their scope is endless. They are the original provider of cloud computing services. I obviously need to ensure that my world view includes Amazon and its initiatives around the world. One of the most interesting trends that is even seeing the evolution of the e-commerce industry is the move away from dedicated e-retail sites, one website destination per brand, into this marketplace phenomenon that obviously has been established by the likes of Amazon around the world, copied by Tmall and Alibaba in China, and Myntra, Flipkart in India, but which is now taking shape as being the method of transaction even on social media platforms. So you're going to see Instagram launching a marketplace. If you now see a product in Instagram that you like, instead of clicking away and going to Amazon to try and find and buy it, you can stay inside the Instagram world and buy it from the marketplace there. And of course that means that I need to think about getting my product in front of consumers on Instagram, but also then making sure it's available to be purchased inside Instagram, if that's my strategy. So Amazon has changed everything, but it's not in charge of the future.
So when you talk about the e-commerce, the retail with a global reach, there are many factors, many components connected with each other. For example, like one is the marketplace platform.
Yes.
The second is the logistics part.
Yes.
Likewise, there are many components, and usually when a company usually gets into that kind of business, they tie up with partners.
Yes.
So do you have a kind of a partnership viewpoint, or you wanted to have your own control of all the components and then run?
Well, look, just as Oxford Limited has pursued a licensing strategy whereby we don't own all of the retail sourcing, warehousing and distribution capability, I don't think it's realistic that we have any more presence in the fulfillment side of an e-commerce strategy around the world. We do have our own warehousing in the UK associated with my core business, and it fulfills my own e-commerce website. But realistically, it is going to be driven through partnership, even though, of course, I have to accept that there is less margin to be made if I have to share it with a partner. The advantages, of course, and in this global world, it's not just about money, it's about service. And the expectations of consumers and the platform owners is incredibly high in terms of responsiveness and
Absolutely.
return
Absolutely.
rates and all of those measurements that ensure that you're allowed to stay on these platforms. And that's not something that I can deliver from Oxford, England, around the world.
There are many excellent leaders, many organizations which we always look upon. So, if I have to ask, which are the leaders or the organizations you admire the more? Who are the leaders or the companies and why?
Okay. Well, look, I think you have to look at Jeff Bezos as one of the most impressive leaders, not only because of what he's accomplished, but by the way he's accomplished it. I think that good leaders are the ones who really understand that it's not just about them. They surround themselves by clever people and they allow them to fly. And in all successful organizations, you will find that trait in leaders. But that's the same the world over, and it probably always will be.
So what kind of product range you're coming up with to reach out to the global market?
So we have thought again long and hard about what product Oxford University should be selling around the world, and came up with a very simple test. It's a test of relevance, so that if we are going to put a product in the name of the University of Oxford, it has to have a relevance, a story attached to it that makes it something that a consumer could understand should come from the university. We are a strong educational brand, obviously, around the world, and therefore science toys, back-to-school product, educational board games and puzzles are very obvious product areas.
Yes.
The university also has an incredible array of content sitting in its archives, museums, libraries, and that content can be drawn upon to create patterned product that can be used in home textile and interior. So that's a whole other area. And then, of course, universities are famous for their apparel, their clothing. So we have a big clothing program that works around the world. And where there is relevance, where there's a story attached, perhaps a scientist made an invention that is now used in a product, that product has a relevance to the University of Oxford. So that's where we make sure that we sit.
What sort of objective you have set for your licensing programs?
Well, we've already talked about the benefits of projecting the brand of the university around the world, making it relevant to consumers. But there are some very important other objectives behind the program. We take it upon ourselves to register and protect the names and reputation of the university through trademark. Now, trademark falls into various different consumer classes depending on the type of product. And we need to demonstrate use in all of those classes in order to be able to maintain and continue to enjoy the protection of trademark registration in territories around the world. The only realistic way of doing that is through licensing, because as we've discussed, the resource required to deliver that ourselves would be too great. So licensing plays a very important part in protecting the name and reputation. And of course it drives revenue back to the university. So it's a win-win situation.
So we have a very exciting discussion.
Okay.
And now we wanted to move to the second phase of the discussion, which is the kind of rapid fire, quick things.
Okay.
So I'll ask the questions.
Yes.
Whichever comes first in your mind, you have to pick and say.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's give it a go.
So are you a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl. You were lucky to see me this morning.
Okay, great. Are you a coffee person or a tea guy?
Coffee all the way.
Okay. What is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
I go and feed the cat.
You like cats?
No, we have a cat at home. We have
Okay.
it's a very demanding cat that
Okay.
requires feeding first thing, otherwise she just shouts.
Okay. What's on your work desk?
A variety of files and in trays, and a computer, pictures of my family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about it.
What's on your smartphone home screen?
Only the most used apps that I
Okay.
require.
You're using an iPhone?
Yeah, no, I have a Samsung Galaxy.
Okay, then you still have chance to put some
I can personalize,
pictures.
but yeah, I
iPhone
don't.
doesn't give that option. What is your favorite workday time waster?
Well, what's my favorite work time waster? Talking to my colleagues, sharing life with my colleagues.
Okay, excellent. Your favorite personal possession?
I bought myself a Montblanc writing instrument, a propelling pencil, when I was much too young. I think it was probably the first time I was made redundant and I had a little bit of cash in my pocket. It was in complete luxury, and it has stayed with me ever since, and I love using it. I write with it every day, and that's my favorite possession.
Excellent. How do you run a meeting?
Well, I generally tend to take a very backwards seat. I like to listen to other people. I don't want to dominate meetings. There's no point in drawing people together and then just making them listen to what I have to say. I want to hear what other people have to say. And I try to draw consensus.
Okay. The one trait you look for in a new hire?
Passion. A genuine interest in why they're in front of me and what they want. You know.
Okay. Who has been the most significant influence on you?
My wife, without a doubt.
Okay.
She's my moral compass, my leader.
Excellent. What is the best professional advice you have ever been received?
I think I would probably have to say, always remember the impression that you make on other people. Always manage that, because otherwise you've lost.
Okay. Wonderful talking to you, Chris, and it was a pleasure for us to have you on the Professional Times, and we wish you all the very best for your future endeavor.
Thank you very much. It's been
Thank
a great pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.